Over the past decade of gaming, we have been receiving insanely high quality video game remakes. These remakes are being defined in a lot of cases as generational games being remade for a new audience that in most cases are better than their original counterpart. In the Game Awards, there seems to be always one or two remakes in the final running for Game of the Year, which speaks volume to how much effort we have been seeing in these video game remakes over the past decade or so of gaming. So today, I want to discuss 3 video game remakes that stick out in my mind compared to others. These are some of my favorite remakes I've played over the past decade or so. So opinions could vary a lot, but these are just my opinions. These 3 games define the different types of remakes that have been happening in gaming. It's kind of confusing when trying to boil down what a video game remake is nowadays, but when a video game gets remade, it can mean multiple different things. The term remake could mean a complete overhaul of the gameplay, story, sound, etc., or it could mean a simple graphics update and music update and just plopped onto a new console. So today, join me as I discuss the current golden age of video game remakes. Real quick, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. It takes 1 click, it's super quick and easy and helps me out a ton. Thank you so much. Let's get into the video. The first remake I want to discuss today is the Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door remake for the Nintendo Switch. This remake was released in 2024 and follows the idea of making slight changes to the original game rather than a complete overhaul. The main game of Thousand Year Door is mostly unchanged for the remake. There are a couple of small quality of life changes, like the general white mission being way more pulled back in terms of backtracking, and a drop down menu to swap your partners on the fly instead of having to go into the menu and swap them from there. The remake also brings in remixed music and better graphics that were built from the ground up, so that qualifies for the remake tag that I'm throwing on these games. Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door is one of the best turn-based RPGs of our time, and is arguably one of the best Nintendo games ever made, so when this remake was announced, people lost their mind, including me. I was really excited for this remake as well. It made perfect sense to remake this game as it was stuck on the GameCube, which is a beloved console, but didn't sell too good, so not many people got to experience this all-time classic game. This is a perfect remake in my mind, as it doesn't do anything crazy to overhaul the game, as the base game is already so good. Many times remakes will try to change too much with the base game, and of course it depends on the remake, but the base game of Thousand Year Door is just too good. It didn't need to be changed. It's a timeless classic for a reason. It just needed a couple updates, some bells and whistles here and there, and call it a day. It is really the perfect remake for a perfect game. Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door is a case of a basic remake, but still establishes a pillar in video game remakes. There's a lot of video game remakes like this. It's not really like a remaster. I call it like an enhanced port. It changes the graphics and updates the sound, and like I said, a couple quality of life changes. They always like to throw in some secret boss fights here and there too. You have the Prince Mush fight in this thing, in this game as well, and all of these remakes that kind of qualify under the enhanced port are very basic, and I think these are very harmless, but still really needed in the gaming industry. Out of all the remakes I'm going to discuss today, this is the one I think you should play the most if you haven't already, as its main purpose is just to exist on a more popular console so more people can play this classic game. I love this game normally. I really think you should play this game. It's a great remake for an even better all-time classic. Please go play this game. Let's move on to the next pillar of video game remakes in the next game I'm going to discuss. Next, we have a step up from what the Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door remake set out to do with the Resident Evil 2 remake. This remake basically transforms the original game to make it fit in with the modern game design without changing the spirit or the original shell or idea of Resident Evil 2. The game's story is mostly the same with some small changes here and there. Gameplay got an overhaul that fits in with the modernization of combat in the Resident Evil franchise and increased quality of sound and graphics tenfold. This game looks incredible and sounds even better. The graphics may feel that much better because of how outdated the original game is, but this remake has outstanding visuals, so it's just that, like, going from PS1 graphics to PS4, PS5 graphics, it's an insane leap, but obviously it was needed. So I think that little huge jump has a big factor on this remake, but I think it still looks great. I don't think that's really an issue with this. On top of all of that, this was really one of the first video game remakes in the modern remake era I'm discussing today, so this remake sticks out a little bit more in my mind. This game also does something I love with remakes, and that's better characterization. Since Resident Evil 2 was a PS1 title, characterization in gaming has become significantly better, and this remake shows this. Both Leon and Claire are much better in this version of Resident Evil 2, and go to set up their characters in a way better way for future Resident Evil games than the original did. Of course, the RE2 remake propelled the Resident Evil franchise in terms of remakes, and the remake phenomenon in the Resident Evil franchise helped the series grow tremendously, which is also one of the many perks of doing a remake, of course. I chose the RE2 remake over the other two modern remakes in the franchise, as I think it's the most well received amongst the fans, and I also think it did the best job of improving its original game to remake. The Resident Evil 3 remake is divisive because of the changes it made to the overall game and the formula, mostly the gameplay though, and the Resident Evil 4 remake is divisive just because it's not the original game and not RE4 on the GameCube or PS2 or whatever. That game is just so beloved and so iconic that anything changed to it is just gonna make people mad, right? So, but in all, the Resident Evil 2 remake is one of the best remakes I have played, and I think it's one of the best we've ever gotten as a whole. It captures the spirit of the original game while making quality changes to the game to add to the experience and doesn't take away anything from the original and builds upon it while still keeping its shell and idea. It's a pretty basic take to say that this is a fantastic remake and just a fantastic game in general, but I think it's one of the best examples of a remake. This is what got me into the Resident Evil franchise. I'll always have a soft spot for this game. And I remember it coming out in 2019 and being so impressed with it that even though I wasn't really into this franchise at all, I wanted to play this game because how fun and great this remake looked. I love this remake. It doesn't change the game completely, but it changes what it needs to as much as it needs to do, and just feels like a whole new experience, but it still is Resident Evil 2 at the end of the day. It's not a glorified port like Paper Mario was, but a step above that. I don't really know where to put this in the pillar. It's like in the middle of the three pillars we're going to talk about today, but I love this remake. Let's move on to our last pillar and our last game. The last type of video game remake I want to discuss today is the complete game overhaul. It takes the original game and makes many changes to it and almost makes it feel like a sequel more than a remake. There's no better example of this than the remake of a remake than the Final Fantasy VII Remake project. For those who don't know, the FF7 Remake project is 3 games that are aiming to tell a new story within the Final Fantasy VII verse. It's a remake in some cases as you go through some same story beats from the original game, but with different changes made to the overall narrative the further you go. Without getting into spoilers, the story in the first 2 games are pretty similar to the original until the end, and the third game, which isn't out yet at the time of this recording, is going to change things up drastically and is going to be very different from the original and the first 2 games. On top of the story changes, the gameplay is very different from the original Final Fantasy VII. Instead of a pure turn-based system, we have a hack and slash mixed with a turn-based RPG. So you throw out some attacks, like a hack and slash. It's just with Cloud's attacks, but they all kind of have that hack and slashy feel to it. But you throw out attacks to build up your bigger turn-based RPG style attacks, your spells, your enhanced attacks as the game calls them, or like your items and such. So yeah, this remake sounds radically different from the original, and can you take a wild guess on if people are completely happy with this new product? Of course they aren't. Unlike the other 2 remakes we've discussed, the FF7 project is actively changing the original game, while the other 2 were just enhancing the original game. The gameplay trilogy of remake isn't what people usually get too upset about. Personally, I love the remake's gameplay. Both remake and rebirth are so much fun, and it's so much easier for a newcomer to any sort of RPG or Final Fantasy to play this than a turn-based style of RPG. I love turn-based combat games, but I think this style of gameplay is way easier for the casual fan or the casual gamer to play through. But the story is what people, of course, are getting upset about, and I don't really want to get into this topic as it can be a whole nother video entirely, but the long and skinny of it is that they changed so much about the story towards certain aspects of it, and I think it works in some cases, but in other cases it just doesn't work at all and it falls flat on its face. But this style of remake can work, but I think it only has to be a thing when the original game is very flawed or just straight up bad. The original Final Fantasy VII is one of the most important and beloved games of all time, so changing the story of this game will of course cause some controversy, and case in point, that's what we're getting with this remake. It's a really complicated topic with the Final Fantasy VII Remake project. It's a great 2 set of games. Remake and Rebirth are fantastic games. Go play them if you haven't, but if you're an FF7 purist, you probably have some issues with the story. Maybe you don't, but again, it's a different topic. But hey, I think this game is absolutely S tier in terms of gameplay, so if you ignore the story of the remake, is probably one of the best out there, but that's not fair to say when comparing it to other remakes. But let's get into wrapping this up. Well, now you guys know how complex the idea of a video game remake is. But I really wanted to make this video to highlight how special of a time we are in for video game remakes. All three of the video game remakes I talked about today are insanely special, and the fact that we even got these in the first place should be cherished and celebrated. I picked these three because of what they mean to me, and I'm sure you guys have plenty of other remakes that mean a lot to you and that you would classify in these pillars, but these are just the best examples in the games I know the most about. I think that we are in a great era for gaming and video game remakes in general, and I'm tired of people saying that, oh, I'm tired of remakes because of I don't want old content, I don't want recycled content. We should applaud developers for going back and remaking old or even flawed games in many cases and making them better, making them modernized, and seeing them for a new audience. I love seeing new people play old games that I love. I specifically remember with the Paper Mario remake that I talked about earlier. A lot of people were loving that, and they haven't played that game before because the GameCube didn't sell that great, and this is one of the best RPGs of all time, and seeing more people play it is really cool, and I really like that opportunity that these remakes can create. There's a lot of remakes I'm hoping for that happen here soon. I'm pulling for Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 remake. Really want that to happen. I also would love a Final Fantasy 6 or Final Fantasy 9 remake. I think that would be awesome as well. And I look forward to see whatever Resident Evil team can cook up for remakes. I'd love to see the Resident Evil 5 remake. I cannot wait for that to drop, but hopefully it's soon. But let me know what your favorite video game remake is in the comments below. Is there one you're really excited for to be announced? Is there one that has already been announced that you can't wait to already play? So much content over video game remakes. Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that like button down below and drop a sub if you enjoyed it as well. That helps us out a lot. And be sure to have a great rest of your day and take care. Thank you so much.